Do you remember the story of the first great lesson? I have a wonderful lesson to give you right now, and it's a very long lesson. Remember when we talked about the universe coming to be and the earth coming to be, and then life coming to the earth, life that could eat, grow, and make others like itself? At first, life was in the sea. Then life in the sea became abundant. Later, plants and animals, insects, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals came to live upon the earth. This life on the earth was also abundant. Then at the end of the timeline of life, the human being came to earth. Do you wonder how long this took? It's all here. All the time this took is here. We begin at a time when the earth began to cool down. Do you remember the story about the earth cooling down, cooling and cooling down? Time was passing while the earth was cooling down. It took a very long time for this cooling. Look back at the beginning of the strip. This is a long time. The cooling started at the beginning, and all this time, the cooling was going on. When the earth had cooled, then the crust appeared with its wrinkles and hollows. Keep it rolling. It rained and rained and rained, and waters filled the hollows, flowing downwards and sidewards. Remember that the water got full of salts that had washed down from the land. Then the tiny drop that was life came. It was life that helped to purify the water, and time went on. All kinds of life was eating, growing, and making others like itself. And time went on, and on, and on. At the end of this time, there was a great amount of life in the sea. The sea was full of life, one-celled and many-celled. Look back at the beginning of the strip and see what a long time that has gone by. This is about the time in the history of the earth when the timeline of life began. The seas were full of life: trilobites, sponges, mollusks, sea lilies, cephalopods. Remember then that plants came, making their food from salts and sunlight. Then remember that the plants decided to come onto the land and live there, now making their food from a gas and sunlight, still keeping their feet where they could get water. And time went on. The fish came, the amphibians came. Perhaps it was a frog who had heard the first voice on earth, and then the reptiles came. The reptiles grew and grew, some to an enormous size. The dinosaurs now were on the earth. Small mammals and birds now are on the earth. They were able to live in colder parts. Some of them grew to be large mammals because they had plenty to eat. Woolly mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, whales, and yet the human was not yet on earth, and time went on and on and on. Wow, look at what a long time has kept going. And now, look at the very end of this line when we get to the end. the human has come. The human has only been on earth for this short time. Look back and look at the time it took from the time of the cooling of the earth to the coming of the human being. The human being just like you and me. Walk back in time with me, back to when the earth began to cool. And it was indeed a long, long time.